we are getting into the game, so let's go ahead and head on over. Round one we got here. It's going to be Random versus Kevin.
I thought there was more coming out of that. So
I thought there was too at first, and I was like, can I get the mulligan? But we can't get the mulligan, so no big deal.
Okay. So yeah, it looks like a pretty, I'd say like an okay opening hand for Kevin. Missing the one drop, very unfortunate that you are going to draw that on turn 2, but some big damage being lined up here by Kevin as we get the Dune Keeper into the Sand Soldier. But of course, Random does have access to that Eye of the Dragon early on. There's no immediate way for Kevin to actually deal with that. So it looks like at the very least, we've got a game on our hands.
Yeah, then we get the Gifts from Beyond coming out here, so we'll see what we grab. It is going to go ahead and be the Crescendum as per usual. Get one of those Eye of the Dragons out. And we do already have something to note. Just want to throw this out there. 2 Sejuani and a Gangplank already in the hand for Kevin. And, you know, it's one of the things we've seen before. Obviously, you don't draw the champions. It's significantly less powerful, but we do already have access to those right on curve. So if Kevin's also able to get these Plunder procs off 5 turns in a row and get these champs leveled, we're going to be off to a very good start here.
And it looks like because of sort of the deck that we're playing against in Lee Sin, Make It Rain, not a super high value card unless we're looking to clear out Zoe's and Eye of the Dragons, and it looks like Kevin might have gotten a little jumpy with his Make It Rain and is going to be punished by that for the Zoe. But like, I understand it, right? You're really just concerned with getting your level progression on that Make It Rain, and it's very likely that a Lee Sin player who has already played 2 spells and gotten Eye of the Dragon is just going to pass with the 3 mana that they have there. So would have been a little really heads up if Kevin had actually held back that Make It Rain, but I'm pretty sure Random would have just passed at that point.
Yeah, I mean, we see that a lot with Plunder decks, right? Just naked Make It Rains or even a parlay or something just to hit Nexus, just to get that level up proc. So I would not be surprised. Yeah, here we go. We got another Make It Rain. This is actually beautiful because we also are threatening to remove good old Eye of the Dragon here. See what we get.
And this is really big for Random. You're sort of forcing out a Make It Rain on the offensive turn of Kevin, who was unable to get a Plunder proc on this turn, and the Eye of the Dragon going to survive. This is probably going to be the Jagged Butcher coming down, but now we're just kind of in a little bit of a waiting room for Kevin. We're going to be able to throw down Gangplank and Sejuani and say, do you have answers for these? And with Hush available in hand, as well as Will of Ionia, I think Random's in a really good spot to actually set up this Lee Sin lethal.
Yeah. You might be right. Now, there's something to note. We have Field Rush that was just drawn, so Kevin might be able to throw that out. Another Gangplank off the top.
Kevin might be out of champions by the time we
might
get
not be
into
able
this
to play
Field Rush territory.
That feels bad.
Last night I took to ladder for the first time in maybe a week and a half or so, and I was like, let's see, let's play against some Plunder decks. Let's see what all the hype is about. And I have not run into a Plunder player that has drawn less than 3 champions.
Yep.
And I'm like, is Plunder the best deck in the game, or is any deck that draws 3 champions the best deck in the game?
Like Lee Sin, which even with Lee Sin, we know, we constantly say it's about how good the player is without drawing Lee Sin. In this case, we got 2 of them in hand. I am hard pressed to think that Random doesn't take this game after we get one of them down, but for now we are going to go ahead and at least get rid of the keg, get some lifesteal back up, and now we're sitting pretty at 20 and card advantage Boulevard and a Falling Comet in case another big threat comes out. Even if the Field of Rush comes down, we actually can deal with it and then get a Lee Sin down, and then if the Lee Sin down comes down, like, after any of the Field of Rush champions, the big old 10-10s, it's really not going to matter because he's just going to keep kicking them back to the hand every turn.
Yeah, what Random is currently lacking is a way to finish the game, right? Lee Sin's only one piece of the puzzle. We still need Overwhelm as well as attack buffers, but because we've got this Falling Comet and this Will of Ionia, I don't think Kevin's going to tempo out Random anytime soon. Yes, we're going to get the kill onto the Eye of the Dragon here, but that kind of is what it is, right? We're kind of past the point where we need the Eye. It's not super effective against the double Overwhelm champions that Plunder is putting out anyway, so I don't think Random's too upset about the loss of the Eye there. It's Lee Sin time now.
Oh man, I look at Gangplank so differently after seeing the playing the Ruined King now. I'm just gonna throw that one out there. No spoilers. But yeah, now Field of Rush also can't really come down until turn 9. So Kevin, like you said, is not really going to be able to put pressure on. Yeah, sure. We basically, at this point, have to play the Sejuani. We don't really have another good play unless we.
Actually, I'm pretty sure we're just going to try and kill this Lee Sin with this here, the Monster Harpoon, because it will, even if there's a Pale Cascade, we've got the keg on board that's going to be up to 6 damage.
Okay, well,
Yeah, and
there's...
here comes the Pale Cascade. We're going to
Yep.
try to... I don't think that levels Lee.
Oh,
Oh, it
yes, it
does.
does. Yeah, so it's actually going to be outside of the range. Yeah. So
I was
great,
going to say...
great calculation from Random there.
I was going to say, that looks like a weird play if it doesn't level it, but I thought we were further away. We are not. Lee Sin is leveled and
Yep.
now outside of the range of the Monster Harpoon. So
Yep.
maybe that's why Kevin held it back, saying, you know, one spell comes out, Lee's level. The chances that I kill this are very low.
And the Pale actually does put it
with
out of
that
range.
window not being available for Kevin, I think Random now, as you had mentioned, just going to be able to consistently kick these champions back to the hand and present lethal.
Yeah, and still just feel the rush bogging down the hand there, not able to do much. Let's see what's off the top, though. That's okay. We officially don't get two champions with Feel the Rush. This is great. This is awesome.
No, we shuffled a Gangplank back.
Oh, with the parlay. Okay, okay.
Parlay, yeah, but there is a deny in the hand of Random, so we're not getting that anyway. But this is sometimes the game state that you come down to with Plunder, where you are just forced to run out champion turn after turn, and that's a simple enough game plan for a lot of decks to deal with, right? Well, maybe not a lot of decks, but there are certainly decks that are like, hey, if you just want to play one champion every turn, that's something that I can deal with. I can win through that, especially at 17 health.
All right, it's looking like we're thinking about willing the Gangplank here. So that is going to exhaust pretty much all of our mana on the side of Random, but that will at least give Lee Sin Overwhelm. And from what I'm seeing, the Monster Harpoon is still not going to be able to kill Lee Sin thanks to the buff from... All right, yeah, but it will pre-buff. So it looks like we are going to go. Yep. Here we go. This is going to be really good for Kevin. Going to be able to get the Lee Sin off the board, and it doesn't look like
they are not going to be able to get the Lee Sin off the board. That is a 5 damage Monster Harpoon. Now that the kegs have been used, Lee Sin will get barrier for the Sejuani attack as well. And because the Lee is going up to 8 HP, you can't even like use the Harpoon to pop the spell and to pop the barrier and attack it with Sejuani. And of course, that parlay turning back into a Gangplank does mean that spell is no longer available for Kevin.
Yeah, now I'm thinking even if we get another keg down with Gangplank, I mean, we're going to have to get multiple kegs now to actually be able to threaten this Lee Sin. And I don't think that's going to be very easy, not with Lee Sin pretty easily staying on the board at this point. And we have now the Deny on backup. I don't see any reason why Random ever goes below Deny mana at this point and isn't in a pretty safe spot with Lee Sin. We are going to pull the Sejuani. This is going to begin to threaten lethal, and that is going to be the surrender from Kevin. So Random taking the Lee Sin deck up 1-0 here.
Yeah, Hush is a great countermeasure against these Plunder decks where you look at the Sejuani and you say, oh man, I can never get through my Lee Sin lethal. If you just open up the turn with the Hush, there's no chance for the Sejuani player to react because it is burst speed, and then you are free to do whatever you want because, you know, they can't play another Sejuani on top of that one. You just kick that back to the hand into the Nexus for lethal as Random did, and now it looks like Darkness was banned, so we are going to be moving over to this Lux Poppy Shellfolk.
All right. So are we thinking, you know, just to kind of revisit that game here for a second?
Sure.
Does Lee Sin generally, are we thinking Lee Sin has a pretty good matchup versus Plunder? Because you know as well as I do, Boulevard, damn near everybody's going to be bringing Plunder today. Yeah.
It can be difficult to deal with Gangplanks if they're coming down on curved, as well as like aggressive openers if they go like, you know, Crackshot Corsair into a 2-drop. That's something that can be a little hard to deal with if you don't get your eyes online as consistently as you need to. But I would say that it's probably going to be Lee Sin favored, especially knowing that you are coming into a Plunder-heavy matchup, or a Plunder-heavy field, rather. I think a lot of Lee Sin players are on multiple copies of Will of Ionia right now.
Yeah, we did see Will come in pretty big last game, but now we get to see the Lux Poppy deck. This is the one I wanted to see, Boulevard, so I'm very excited.
Whoa. Last week, you weren't big on this deck, and then you were like, I'll pick one deck, and you picked Teemo Swain, so...
I do like Teemo Swain.
You're not the bandwagon onto this.
No. I do like Teemo Swain.
Whoa. Heal on this deck.
Anybody right now is allowed to bandwagon on Lux, okay? For how long Lux has been bad, now that she's been buffed and we have all this 6 mana support, all right, I'm bandwagoning on Lux. I'm doing it. Nobody can stop me, okay?
Yeah. So, speaking of Lux, I actually do want to, as an aside here, what is your favorite champion to pair with Jason the Production Surge deck? Is it Heimerdinger? Is it Lux? Is it something else?
I want to say, I think Lux. I don't know. That's tough because Production Surge, is very fun with Heimerdinger as well. But now that Final Sparks can go face, I do kind of like that if they have an empty field, and I like the finishing power of what's Jace's spell again that does 3 to the face, 3 to a unit.
Shock Blast?
Shock Blast, yep. So Shock Blast and Final Spark. I feel like there's a lot of burn in that deck, and we all know how much I love burn, so.
They come out with a 6-mana spell deck, and you're just looking at how much burn is available.
All right, here we go. Bouncing Barb, Sharp Sight, and Entrapment. Gotta take the
I thought you were having a stroke for a
I thought I was too. That's twice in a row. I can't
Barnes
speak English right now. But Sharp Sight, very good pick up there. Laurent going to come down. And the field, very much in Random's favor. We could actually open attack with this Poppy. We even have a for Demacia, but yep, we're going to utilize this Poppy buff here. And we have backup to save the Poppy. So if one of these blockers gets committed, yep, Monkey, we can save the Poppy and get some sort of removal out of Kevin, which right now there's no guaranteed way to remove it. But nope, we're not going to commit the Sharp Sight. We're just going to let Poppy die.
Yeah, it looks like we're more concerned with just hanging onto our Sharp Sights for this Radiant Guardian, for the Concerted Strike, to try and fight through a little bit of Frostbite, perhaps. Maybe even block these elusives. Sharp Sight's just such a good tool, and I don't think that you are really concerned with trying to protect the Poppy against a deck that plays Monster Harpoon.
Yeah, and let's be honest. I mean, Poppy, we've talked about this before. Poppy's just a very hard champion to level. So
yeah, you're not like, you can get baited once you get to 2 out of 3 and be like, oh, I need to like all in on getting this Poppy to level up. And then you like look at your deck composition and the board that you have available, and you're like, it was probably better to not do this.
Yep. But Sejuani coming down leveled. Gonna mean some Frostbite coming through. And there it is. You called it, Boulevard. We got the Sharp Sight to save this Radiant Guardian. Going to give us a little bit of additional lifesteal as well, which is going to be pretty big, being that we are already at now 11.
Ain't giving us nothing.
Now nothing.
We got
now.
Sejuani.
Yep. So, and
this is a rough spot for Random, but I think with I'm thinking of like sharp, like we Concerted Strike the Sejuani. We get Frostbitten, then we play Sharp Sight to deal 2 damage, and then we get the Final Spark, but that's only 6. That's still 1 shy of actually killing the Sedge.
Yeah, and so I want to go back to that lifesteal too, right? So that Sejuani proc, negating that lifesteal from the Radiant Guardian. This Plunder deck, one of the things it's pretty well known for is once you get to this kind of like 9 health range, it has a way to close out the game, and it's called Treadway. So this thing does a lot of damage once it hits the board. All your units deal double damage. Something like Sejuani with Overwhelm is going to deal double, Make It Rains, all that stuff. So Random is not safe unless we can get some more lifesteal off. And you can see here, we're going for the Concerted Strike. There is a way to Frostbite this if we do want to use the Warning Shot on the side of Kevin. So we'll see if that's going to come down. It looks like it is.
Yep, that's going to be 0 attack. And as we had already mathed out, the Sharp Sight plus Final Spark as well as the Concerted Strike. Actually, it would have been enough if you had lined it up on Lux, because she'll oh no, she won't level until after the Concerted Strike is resolved. Never mind. So she's not going to get that +1 attack in time. Looks like there was no way around this.
Yeah, this this feels like such a lackluster Radiant Guardian. It's been around for so many turns, but it's done so little to actually heal us up because it keeps getting frostbitten.
Yeah, we can at least set the Sejuani into Pokestick range, and we are not offered Pokestick.
Nope. Maybe another Sharp Sight if we want that.
Yeah, so Sejuani's definitely going to live, and the problem is there's an elusive there, so that'll strike before Sejuani does. 2, there's a Crackshot Corsair, so that'll hit before anything else does, and your board will be frostbitten. And it looks like we're just kind of trying to play to the top deck out of a way to kill the Sejuani, but the Dreadway almost feels like more of a threat at this point.
Yeah, that bad boy is one heck of a finisher. We'll see. We get the Gangplank off it too, so we'll see if Gangplank comes down this turn. We also have another Dreadway off the top, so I don't know. This is not looking great. We just jammed the other Dreadway. So there's just double the double. I don't think I've ever seen 2 Dreadways on
these are 4 damage Make It Rains.
Oh, This is great.
These. I mean, having the Dreadway as well as the mana for both Make It Rains, random's dead here.
It's basically a full board clear. I mean, technically...
You can stress defense all you want, Mr. 7HS, but we're about to take, 4 damage from a Crackshot Corsair before we try to deal 8 with this Zap Sprayfin, not to mention the Overwhelm. Oh.
You almost have to stress defense. So we have to stress defense to Sejuani here. We have to block with Sharp Sight onto the Zap Sprayfin, because that's 4 more damage face.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think enough of the board dies that the Make It Rains are guaranteed to hit face, or at least the second one is.
Yeah, this is not looking too hot. There's the sharp sight. At least the conchologist will survive. Okay, there's a win. So we're okay.
The conchologist will not survive. That is an 8 attack zap spray fin.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, it also doesn't in combat damage. So never mind. That is not a small win. And yeah, I'm pretty sure Kevin closes this out with the Make It Rains, or if not, then at least the next turn everything gets frostbitten. There we go.
Yeah, there's still 2 Gangplanks in hand representing a parlay.
And we did nothing to remove these Dreadwaves. That's the other thing too, right? Like with that Sejuani being level 2, not only do we have to commit our whole field as a block, but the blocks also do nothing to get rid of it.
And Random seemingly realizing that the stress defense on the Sejuani does mean that he actually healed it.
Yeah, that's not a great play there.
So we've got one more turn theoretically on the side of Random to try and chew through this onslaught, but does he main deck that? Yeah, that was a Loping Telescope.
Okay, I was gonna say, I just asked myself the same question. There's no way. I remember a lot of people.
This is a Bilgewater card. I always think this is a Vandal City card.
I remember a lot of people thought that was gonna be busted with Nami, and it just didn't.
Oh yeah, no.
Didn't quite pan out.
Any 6-mana bad card, I just assume belongs to Vandal City.
Excuse me, not all of their 6-mana cards are bad. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that all their 6-mana cards are bad. I'm just saying they have all the bad 6-mana cards. Because you will put some respect on Minotaur Reckoner's name while I'm around. He's not bad. Oh, it hit face!
It hit face.
It hit face. We get the Frostbite as well as the 2 kills on the units. Yeah, that is going to be the end of game number 2. But that does mean we get a game number 3. We get to see Kevin swap off of that Plunder and onto either Sivir Akshan or Zed Poppy. Oh boy,
Listen, I have seen on ladder too. Like when I do queue up on ladder, and like you, I have been enveloped in so many different Riot games at this point that I haven't played as much Legends of Runeterra as I want to. But when I do queue up, that's usually one of the decks I see for like 3 or 4 games in a row. So we'll see what happens here.
All right, Sivir Akshan going to be up against Lux, Poppy, Shellfolk. We saw this matchup a couple of times last week, or at least we saw them in opposing lineups, but I don't think we got to see them head-to-head too often.
I think you're right, yeah. I don't think we really did see them head-to-head often. And I'm just kind of curious how this is going to go. I don't know if Random is going to be able to stabilize quick enough to actually get Lux on board and rocking and rolling here. But we shall see.
And it's a really nice opener for Kevin as well.
Mm-hmm.
You got the Treasure Seeker into the Akshan, then
Merciless
you either
Hunter.
get to play a slower game with this Preservarium, keep on the aggression with the Merciless Hunter. You've got options, and Random really doesn't have early game removal, being that this is not the Piltover and Zon version of Shellfolk. It's really just like Pokey Stick that you're looking at, and then of course Concerted for the bigger targets, but you don't really want to be using that on an Akshan.
All right, Laurent Protege coming down. That is going to potentially threaten this Akshan. We could save the Akshan as well, but nope, we're just not going to attack.
Yeah. So those are the turns that I hate the most, where like it's turn 3, your opponent has no spell mana banked, and you're looking at it and you're like, this is a really high value pass. But if they just pass back, like they just get all the spell mana, and I don't think they really care. Like, oh, I stunted your development, but you lost no tempo because you will eventually cast spells.
Ooh, we grab the Ranger's Resolve, so that's going to be really interesting, especially with Akshan's quick attack. That might allow Random to get some pretty good trades here in one of these combats, especially now that Merciless Hunter has come down. That's going to be interesting. Actually, no, not if the Sanso Charger pulls the Laurent Protege, the Ranger's Resolve will not
Which I
save
imagine
it.
it will.
Yeah.
I think it's more about potentially taking a kill onto Akshan or Sivir down the line.
Yep. And all right,
we're just forcing more combat tricks out of Kevin, because sometimes you just take the option that's just going to 1-for-1 your opponent because you freely created this card, right? You know that at some point it will either get a Shaped Stone or a Sharp Sight out of your opponent, so that's all you can really ask out of a 1-mana spell, right?
Yeah, really any sort of commitment works out for you there. But the Bruiser coming down after the Lux, of course. So Lux should be able to get a free attack off. I don't think you're too concerned, but it looks like Random is just going to pass.
Yeah, I think your concern is single combat popping your spell shield, and then your unit just dying to the Bruiser.
Yeah, there was 2 spell mana up. But see, now, this is my problem, though, right? We keep making those passes because we're concerned about a specific card. But now look at this field from Kevin. Like, we just keep pass, and now Kevin has this ridiculously strong field. Now with Sivir on top of it, this is going to be hard for Random to come back from.
That specific pass, though, I think, so if we didn't take the pass there, right, we go in with Lux.
It's only
Kevin
3
would just
damage,
be at 17. Like,
it's
it
not,
wouldn't change the board state at all.
Yeah. No, I know. I mean, I don't necessarily think that pass was terrible, but I think Random is kind of just, hanging out, chilling right now, and we're not really doing anything to attempt to win the game. And I think this was kind of my initial concern. We're not even going to be able to
Rangers resolve out of this because the Akshan levels here and goes to 7 attack over the Shellfolk.
Oh. That feels bad. It would have been nice keeping the Shellfolk and the Lux on board. But...
You do have the Sharp Sight, though. You can still take the kill onto this Akshan and preserve the Shellfolk, but the damage has been done. The Warlord's Horde has been summoned. Yes, obviously, it's nice to keep Akshan around after that, but as long as you get that Akshan level and get the Horde online so that you can start to stick down to it, that's your main concern.
Yeah, and we kind of have to save the Shellfolk there, right? Because like now, Random's game plan has to be the long game, right? I mean, we're still alive. I mean, we're at 10, but we do have things like Radiant Guardian that we can rely on. And now we have Shellfolk and Lux sticking to the field. So if we can somehow generate Final Sparks, some more cards with Shellfolk, I think we'll be in a decent spot. But it's going to be difficult because they're not very healthy. These units can get removed rather easily.
Ooh, and we might take Challenger onto the Sivir. Yeah, so that's something... It's not going to be too hard for Random to chew through, right? We can just like pokey stick away that spell shield, throw a Final Spark at it, and just start to eat a lot of resources out of Kevin's hand in order to force them to protect this Sivir. It's definitely a big opportunity for Random to turn the corner here.
Yeah, and here's where the card advantage train starts with the Shellfolk. Grab ourselves a Vanguard Sergeant. Looks like a Sharp Sight going to get grabbed for Kevin off the top, and just like you mentioned, pokey stick going to pop the spell shield. Now, this is going to be a question, I guess, with Lux, because a lot of times there's always the argument, like, if you pop the Spell Shield on Sivir, do you let her stick around so they can't develop another one with Spell Shield, or do you kill it? I think in this situation... It really
depends on if you plan on dealing with that Sivir in combat.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think in this situation, because we have, Final Sparks that can get generated, I think we can pretty easily deal with Sivir outside of combat. So I would not be surprised. What is I'm pretty sure if we spend 2 more spell mana, we get a Final Spark.
She is at 5 out of 6.
1 more,
so
okay.
That might be where the Rangers Resolve comes in, is just give me that Final Spark.
All right, I mean, I'll take it. It's not getting card advantage out of your opponent per se, but you do get a free card, so... Which is very awkward if we don't now, because we can't let Kevin go in with an open attack with the Sivir, right? I mean... Okay. All right, so we can Final Spark something else, probably the Bruiser.
Well, you would think, but I think this is going to be single combat taking out the Lux.
Yep. And I guess, I mean, okay, if it takes out the Lux, then Sivir dies.
Aiming at the Shellfolk.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Kevin might want to save the Sivir, because if we kill Shellfolk, Lux does not kill the Sivir.
No, but Final Spark will.
Yeah, that's a good point. So either way... okay.
I think no matter how you do this, you are losing one unit.
Sivir, yeah. That's right. I wonder if Kevin...
And it's just a matter of, do you care more about the Shellfolk or the Lux sticking around? And it looks like Kevin cares less about the Shellfolk more... Or less about the Lux, more about the Shellfolk? That's the one. That's the phrasing.
See, I would argue you care way more about Lux. Like, especially, Random's already gotten a couple cards, or I think it was only 1 card, right, out of the Shellfolk. I think you're fine with that with this current board state. Like, I think if you can keep Lux around and deal with these units now, I think you're in a pretty good spot.
I think Kevin is going for the call of, like, there's not a lot of 6-mana spells in this deck. If you are going to actually generate Final Spark, it's going to usually cost you 2, sometimes 3 spells.
Mm-hmm.
And just looking at your opponent's 7-card hand and saying, hey, if you want to throw out 3 combat tricks to make a Final Spark, be my guest. Is that correct? That's a good question.
It's a very good question.
That's the line we took.
All right, we are preemptively
popping the Warlord's Horde.
Yeah. Sharp Sight.
Okay, vulnerable into a fresh Sivir.
Oof, and that is a dangerous attack there. So Random does have some chump blockers that they can throw down. I I'm curious to see if we ever get the Shark Trainer to hit the board. I think we live if we throw down, yeah, the Loping Telescope, right? I think we have enough blockers.
But we are losing our entire board.
Yeah.
For free, of course, because Sivir is, of course, going to spread around that quick attack.
Yeah, and I think that was why Kevin made the consideration last turn, right, to get rid of the Shell Folk instead of the Lux, because maybe knowing, okay, if I do pressure on the following turn, now I'm going to be able to force Random into blocking with the Lux. Or, I mean, now it's got Vulnerable, so there's always that route too. We can just pull it. But now everything with quick attack, this is going to be rough. I mean, Random loses the whole board. Okay, Random does not lose the Lux, so we are saving the Lux. That might be a big deal. I mean, how many final sparks can we get? That might be a very big deal, Boulevard.
We're at 2 out of 6. Our hand only lines us up for one more final spark because we only have 5 mana worth of spells outside of that that For Demacia. Of course, that can be changed by the poison darts generated off of this Yordle, Lecturing Yordle. So, definitely not down and out on the side of Random yet. There is a little bit of comeback potential. Kevin's hand is pretty light. Another unit, I think, is exactly what Kevin wanted to see and just try and stay as wide as possible and push through this last bit of damage. But the Absolver is exactly the card Kevin was looking for when you're trying to, you know, sort of deal out this last little bit.
We do finally have a Radiant Guardian off the top 2 for Random, but I am not. I think it's a day late and $1 short, Boulevard. Yeah, we're not even blocking the Yordle. Makes sense. No reason to. We're at 14. We're pretty healthy. That means Random doesn't have a way to get this Radiant Guardian down. And
Kevin can actually defensively For Demacia when Random generates a final spark.
Yeah, and I think, well, yeah, so Kevin just thought about that exact thing, but is pulling it back because
I
saying,
think
okay, let's wait until the final
actually
spark is
have
generated.
to use Ranger's Resolve here to get the burst final spark and kill Sivir before the For Demacia can come out. Because if you use the Poison Dart, I'm pretty sure Kevin's firing off that For Demacia and you are not killing anything with the final spark this turn. Unless you throw it at the Merciless Hunter, in which case it will still die through For Demacia. But yeah, this is going to be the burst spark.
And we technically live, right? Because even if one of the 3 attacks gets through, as far as Random's concerned, we live. But Kevin, we do see the Absolver. That would be enough for lethal, depending on what Random can top deck.
And now Radiant Guardian is going to come down just to replace the Sivir.
Yep. And I think that is going to be all she wrote here in just a second. We'll see what Random gets off the top.
Don't imagine anything saves him since he was unable to get down that Radiant Guardian. There's no lifesteal concerted big swing back that we're going to get off the side of Random7HS.
Nope.
So Kevin going in for the big swing has the Absolver return combo. Just making sure we line things up properly to play around nothing. I think there's no Spirit's Refuge going to randomly pop out of Random at this point.
All right, and that is going to be Kevin taking it 2-1 over Random.